Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, for today's video, I thought I would do a reintroduction of Carrie, and by that I mean back when I first started this channel more than a year ago now, I did the AuthorTube and BookTube newbie tags just to introduce myself as an aspiring author and as a reader for this channel. But those tags didn't really cover me as a person, which to be fair was by design. Despite being a person on the internet and kind of a private person, and prefer not to talk too much about myself. But that being said, I've been here for over a year now, and I've gotten a lot of new subscribers over the last couple of months, so I figured now is a good time to just kind of reintroduce myself to this channel. And I haven't scripted this video, so if I seem all over the place, it's because I didn't prepare, which I probably should have. But as you know by now, my name is Carrie Scher. I am 36 years old. I am a mom of 3. I do have a full-time day job, and I will not be talking about it because there is an element of privacy to my job, and that's just one of those things that I prefer to keep offline. I do enjoy my day job most of the time. I think that's true of most people. I have been writing since I was 11, and I wrote a very poorly disguised knockoff of the Boy Wizard series that shall not be named. A little bit later, like when I was 13 or 14, I started moving more into fan fiction, as teenage girls are wont to do, and that pretty much dominated my writing efforts until I was my mid-20s. So my writing is very heavily shaped by my fan fiction years, and for good and for ill. And I am trying to adapt that style that I developed into something that can be put towards original fiction. I did do writing semi-professionally for a little while. I was writing romance novellas for Scribd, which, if you don't know, is a subscription service where you can get all kinds of books and written materials. I really enjoyed that experience. I have enough distance now where I can say I did enjoy it. I got to be paid for my writing. I was working with an editor and was expected to turn in manuscripts on a deadline, which something that was really enforced by that process that I thrive in. I thrive on a deadline. However, it was a very tight deadline, and I eventually did burn out after about a year because the turnaround was just so fast. I was writing 30,000 words every single month while maintaining a full-time job and having kids and trying to be a mom and everything. And it was a lot of work. And like I said, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the time, the experience, and I definitely enjoyed getting paid to be a writer for the first time, but it was a little bit too much for someone like me who had so many other obligations. I did try my hand a little bit at copywriting. I hated it. It paid like garbage, and it just wasn't interesting. I was putting in way more effort, I think, than probably my peers were, and that meant that my time was not being compensated appropriately. So I have worked as a writer a little bit. My ultimate goal, of course, is to be fully published traditionally. I have all the respect in the world for indie authors who do it all themselves, who find themselves editors and do their own formatting and get cover design and all of that. I know for a fact that I could not do that. I know that I do not have the constitution for that. And so I am choosing traditional publishing not because I have any sort of disdain for indie publishing. It's just I know that I don't have what it takes to be an indie published author. I would much prefer writing and sending it to agents and hopefully getting published that way. I mean, I think if I got to a point where if I had sent out like 2,000 query letters and had been rejected the whole time and had sent out 10 different manuscripts and still wasn't getting anywhere, I would try indie publishing. But my spirit hasn't been broken, so I want to try it this way. I write primarily fantasy. I started writing again in my late 20s, like I said, but really the year I turned 30, I made it my goal to finish a manuscript by my next birthday, and I did. I didn't finish a manuscript. I finished a draft for the first time in my life. It was way too short, and it needed severe revisions. like major structural revisions. And so I put it back in the trunk, and there it has stayed since then. It is like on my list of novels I do want to write eventually, but writing that first draft taught me a lot about who I am as a writer, primarily that because of my fan fiction history, I write very thin. I don't overly describe things or describe things at all, actually, because of my fan fiction history, where you're going into a situation where people are already theoretically familiar with the characters, who they are, what they look like, all of that, and the world. So that is something I have been working on, learning how to describe things in a way that is engaging but also succinct and not weighing down the flow. I am very, very plot forward as a writer. My first drafts tend to be, if it is not forwarding the main plot, it is useless to me. Again, another thing that I am working on, and I would not have learned all of this if it hadn't been for that first draft. Unfortunately, I haven't successfully completed a draft since then. So we are 5 years out from that now. So I have tried my hand at probably half a dozen other projects. And what happens usually is I get to about 20,000 words and then I just fizzle out. So that is why I am doing the writing vlogs. If you're familiar with those, I hope that you are. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it has been very inspirational to keep going with this current project. And that's another thing about me, is I am very motivated by public accountability. I think that's part of the reason why I thrived so much on the deadline, is knowing that someone else was expecting this of me. It wasn't just me. I disappoint myself all the time. I'm used to it. But someone else, I couldn't possibly let them down. And it was to that end that I started my writing vlog. So putting it out there in the universe, on the internet, where people could watch it and be like, you told me you were going to have this draft completed by the end of the year, and you didn't. How dare you? That's how it is in my head. So I hope that it actually does work that way when I get to the draft. But anyway, so that's who I am as a writer. Fantasy is my favorite genre. It has been ever since I was a kid, and I read Terry Goodkind's The Wizard's First Rule probably way earlier than I probably should have. I think I was like 12 or 13. But it has always just been my most favorite thing to read. Actually going even farther back than that with Ella Enchanted. And I remember thinking even back then that it was such a shame that the fantasy setting that Gail Carson Levine developed for that Cinderella retelling was never going to be used again or seen again. And I know there was a companion novel later, but fantasy has always been a passion of mine. And that goes into reading as well. I read almost exclusively fantasy. I will read some sci-fi, and I will read some romance on occasion, but fantasy is and has always been my favorite genre. So outside of writing and reading, I am a huge sports nut. I love sports. I will watch pretty much any sport that is on, but my biggest one is football. I am a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and my whole family has been. This is not a new fandom that I'm jumping on to because of the success. I love football. I love baseball. I'm getting into basketball and hockey a lot more of late. I also love video games. Video games was my other big hobby as a kid and into my adult years, primarily RPGs, and I do a little bit of strategy games as well. I have thousands of hours in Final Fantasy XIV, which is the MMO. I have replayed Mass Effect and Dragon Age more times than is probably healthy. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. It used to be one of my favorite genres, or my favorite mediums of storytelling. I actually did enjoy the only getting one episode every week. I liked being able to digest it. I liked being able to talk about theories with my friends. I liked breaking down having time to break down each moment and find out what was significant in each episode every single week. I kind of miss being part of fandom, and I definitely miss that, TV production is moving away from that format more and more lately. My favorite TV show of all time, however, despite all what I just said, is Mythbusters. That show was with me through so many hard times, and I used to literally, when it was still on Netflix, I would turn it on my laptop and set my laptop next to me on my bed and go to sleep that way. I'm not a big movie person, despite having worked at a movie theater when I was a teenager. I am someone who I always have to be doing something productive. I don't know what you call that, like type A personality. I'm always working on something. I'm very rarely just sitting down and enjoying myself. Even if I'm sitting here playing a video game, I usually have a book in my lap, or I have my editing program open so I can do edits, or I've got my writing binder in my lap, or I'm doing homework. I'm constantly multitasking. And yes, I know that is less efficient, but it just feels better to my brain to be multitasking at all times. It took me a really long time to figure out that being productive and being active and being up and doing things actually is the best way to combat my chronic anxiety and depression. Won't go into that too much, but that's why I'm always working on something. I've always got something going on. And it has really helped me over the last couple of years. I am one of those rare writers/readers who doesn't drink coffee at all, and I'm really not a tea person either. My drink of choice is a nice, crisp Dr. Pepper. I will drink hot chocolate when the occasion calls for it. I have quite a collection because of one of the book subscription boxes that I subscribe to includes a coffee, tea, or drinking chocolate of your choice, or one of the three in the box every month. It's called Caffeine and Legends, by the way. This is not sponsored, but I really recommend them. They do fantasy books plus a coffee, tea, or drinking chocolate of your choice, and then usually like a little goodie. One of my favorite book boxes. Anyway, I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. They have made their own special appearances throughout the lifetime of this channel. I think of myself as a dog person who also likes cats, whereas like my partner is like a cat person who also likes dogs. So we've got a nice balance here. My orange cat, Toto, who we also call Little Man, came to me on my birthday. We found him up under my car right before a hailstorm on my birthday, and he was a stray. He was only like 8 weeks old and just so small, and I brought him inside and I called my partner and I said, hey, just so you know, we found this stray and I brought him inside, and he's got all these fleas and I don't know what happened. And he said, well, it sounds like the universe got you a cat for your birthday. And so that's how we ended up with him. I didn't know about the cat distribution system at the time, but that was definitely it in play. I did have an anime phase when I was a teenager. I grew out of it pretty much right after I left high school, but I still have great fondness and nostalgia for the series that I fell in love with during that period. Biggest one being Cardcaptor Sakura, as if you want to follow along with my rewatch of that. I've started a vlog series where I completely rewatching that whole series. And my favorite manga series is Fruits Basket. I haven't seen all of the new anime, but my daughter watched it and was really... In fact, I walked in on her watching the last episode of the new anime of Fruits Basket, and it was a very emotional moment, and I just started crying. Anyway, so really fond of that one. I love Dragon Ball Z. I get really like meta-analysis over Dragon Ball Z, something that you wouldn't think needs a lot of it. I can't think of anything else. I like true crime. I will periodically go through a phase where that's all I want to consume. Christmas is my favorite holiday. My favorite color is pink. What else do you guys need to know? And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. One reason I started this channel was because I don't really have a community in my offline personal life, or even really in my online life, that I can talk about books and writing with. So I started this channel to have a place to vent my thoughts into the void, and I have learned how much fun that it is. It truly is a new hobby that I am really enjoying. But to that end, I hope that I can continue to grow this channel in my second year and continue to find a community of readers and writers who we can just commiserate with. The name Just Another Struggling Writer came from me knowing that I am just another person. I am just another aspiring author on the internet. I am not any more deserving or special or hardworking or driven or deserving than any other aspiring author on there. I am another one of you guys, and I want to be able to commiserate with you guys about the peaks and valleys of the writing process, the joys and miseries, the love and the angst that comes with writing. And so this channel has just been a really great place for me to do that. And then throw in the book stuff as well. And I am just another booktuber. I get that, all that, and my opinions again aren't as more developed or shaped or deserving of consideration than anyone else's. But it's been so nice to have an outlet for all of these thoughts and feelings on both writing and reading. And thank you so much for coming along and sharing in that with me. That'll wrap up this video. I hope you learned everything you needed to know, maybe some stuff you didn't really care to about me. So thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. In my next video, I will have another writing vlog for you. And let me tell you, we are a hair's breadth from the draft. So I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.